So far, when we've looked at systems of equations, we solved them by graphing. But this ends up being a fair bit of work. We have to graph two lines on the same plane, and we have to do it accurately enough so that we can clearly see where they intersect. This ends up being a lot of effort, and it takes up a lot of space with the xy plane, so usually we prefer other methods of solving systems of equations. One of these is called substitution, and this problem is set up very nicely for substitution. If you look at the first equation, we can see that y is equal to 3x plus 1. When two quantities are equal to each other, it means that they have the same value. So y and 3x plus 1 are essentially the same. What that means is, if we look at the other equation, x plus y equals 5, you can see that we have a y there. So the way that substitution works is, because y is equal to 3x plus 1, we can rewrite this second equation, but instead of the y, we can put a 3x plus 1 there. So here we've replaced the y with 3x plus 1. Now, the reason that this helps us is because now we have an equation that only has one variable. Instead of an x and a y, we only have x's. And now we can solve, and we can do that by combining like terms. X plus 3x is 4x, so this gives us 4x plus 1 equals 5. If we subtract 1 from both sides, that gives us 4x equals 4. And to get x alone, we divide by 4. This gives us x equals 1. Now we're not finished, because the solution to a system of equations that has an x and a y in it is going to be a value for x and a value for y, but we only have the value for x. We have x equals 1. To figure out the value for y, we're going to substitute again, but now we're going to take the value we have for x equals 1, and we need to substitute it into one of the original equations. I'm going to pick the first one, y equals 3x plus 1. It doesn't actually matter which we choose, but because the goal now is to solve for y, and y is isolated in this equation, it makes the calculations just a little bit easier. So we have y equals 3x plus 1, but we've determined that x is equal to 1. So 3 times x now is going to be 3 times 1 plus 1. Effectively, what we're doing is we are taking the value for x that we've got, x equals 1, and we're plugging it in for the x in the other equation. So now we have y equals 3 times 1 plus 1. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So we end up with y equals 4 and x equals 1. We have already solved this system of equations by graphing a couple of sections before, and we ended up getting the same answer as we do now. So we know that it's correct, but you could also substitute these values into the original equations to check if you're not sure whether or not your final answer is the right one. Either way, we end up with x equals 1 and y equals 4, which is our final answer.